Hey folks, Sean here, and in this episode, I want to talk to you about how to make sure that your customers are getting value from your product as soon as possible, because this helps tremendously as it pertains to the adoption curve and your product becoming habitual with your customers. That makes them stickier, increases your LTV, customer satisfaction, everything. Their ROI goes up, so does yours. So we want to make sure that they get that as soon as they can. Now, there's a concept, and if you're unfamiliar with it, what it's typically referred to as is engineering as marketing. And this is where it's been used as a growth strategy by a number of B2B SaaS companies very successfully. And one of the more popular examples of it is HubSpot, the CRM platform. HubSpot, way back when, created something called a website grader. And I'm sure you're familiar with this concept. This is basically a separate website where you would include your website's domain, press go, and then it tells you how well your website is performing. It gives you a ton of insights. My website is fast, my website is slow, here's where it's slow, here's where the performance isn't great, here's where the experience could be better. It gives you a bunch of immediate value to how to improve your website. And everyone wants to do that, especially for businesses. HubSpot created something like that, which ended up sending them a ton of leads for their CRM because it was branded by them, affiliated with them. And the next step in the process was, oh, by the way, wouldn't it be great to have a centralized location where you can manage all your customer relationships? Now, that example has been used time and time again by a ton of different B2B SaaS companies, but it's still rather underutilized, and folks aren't familiar with it. So not only would I encourage you to look for opportunities to do this, especially given the prominence of AI today and how quickly and easily you can build valuable tools. What I want to say in addition to that is two other things. And number one, it's where to look in terms of how to build those tools and how to use this to improve your onboarding process so that your customers can get value as soon as possible. I want you to evaluate what your product experience looks like and when your customers start getting value. If you have a more complex B2B SaaS product, which is not all that uncommon, it might take more time for your customer to get value directly as a result of them using your platform. And switching costs can be high from customers that are using a different solution than what you offer at the moment. As such, one of the things that increases the probability that they will stay with your platform is how quickly we can provide them with value. Now, if you take from those insights from things like engineering as marketing, where you're giving them value, sometimes free, but definitely right away, we want an onboarding experience like that for your product. The second component that I was going to mention to that is another strategy that's often recommended to help with sales, business development, marketing, and onboarding. You can combine all of these together by reducing the amount of steps that someone needs to go through in order to develop a habit with your product. And how that works is you look for secondary or tertiary problems that are other problems your customer needs solved, but are related to the problem that your core offering solves. Now, when I say core offering, I mean your B2B SaaS product. So whatever your B2B SaaS product is designed to solve, let's say it's designed to handle payments, for example. You want to look for something that's secondary or tertiary, but related to that problem, that your product can also solve. And that can get them started in the process. So if your product's designed to handle payments, but you can also provide them with the ability to see what the payments that they're currently handling today is costing them and how much you can save them, then that is a good secondary or tertiary problem to help them with solving, to get them in the process and started with getting closer to your core offering and the value that that's going to provide. It's a cool half step to provide them with, which will give them value immediately, largely immediately, and something that is valuable to them. And it gets them closer to receiving the value from your core offering, or especially if that's going to happen in multiple steps. So this strategy can also be used to diagnose and solve issues with the onboarding workflow. As in, if you're getting if you've got a couple of steps in your onboarding workflow and the performance drops off from one step to the next step, it might mean that it's too great of a leap. And you can shoehorn in something like this to bridge that gap. You might be it's like trying to go to the top of the stairs all in one step. If you put steps in between, it makes it a whole lot easier. So instead of having someone go from onboarding to something complicated or heavily involved right away, you can provide them with a half step along the way to make this process that much easier for them and to give them value along the way. That's going to be really important. So I want you to think of all of these concepts and how they can benefit you, because the same strategy can be applied multiple ways. But what I'm seeing with some of the B2B SaaS founding teams that I'm coaching right now is that they've got their onboarding workflow is the sequence is out of order, and they're trying to get users and customers to jump through too many hoops too soon, which is too heavy of a lift for them. And it delays the gratification that they're going to get from your product. So if it's going to take days, weeks, months for your customers to start seeing value from your product, that's too long in my opinion, especially right in the beginning. We want to provide them with something that hits them with value right away. It should be borderline instantaneous. The closer you can get to achieving that, the stickier your product is going to be, and the more effective your onboarding process will be as well.